श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः, भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः, स्थिरैरङ्गैः तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः, स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः, स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः, स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Chapter 2 and chapter 3 of the Prashnopanishad is focusing on prana. In chapter 1, we had introduced the concept of prana as that which came out of Prajapati. The two principles that came out was one was prana, another was rai. Building on that prana, the second and third chapter deals with how did this prana come to express in this entire creation, both at the cosmic level and also at the individual level. So the questions pertaining to that exposition were, how does this prana express in the cosmic and the individual, and what is its greatest expression? And then, how does this prana come into this body? How does it sustain? And what is the connection between the prana inside and the prana outside? So these were the topics taken up, and we have completed fairly a substantial portion of what is prana at the individual level and what is prana at the cosmic level. Now we will see in the next two Brahmanas how this prana at the individual level is connected with the prana at the cosmic level. You all must remember that Prashnopanishad is a Brahmana Upanishad supporting the Mantra Upanishad, which is Mundakopanishad. So what is not covered in Mundakopanishad will be covered here. It is like an aid. And what will be the portion that was not covered in Mundakopanishad, which will be covered in Prashnopanishad, if you were to ask? The upasana and karma required to prepare us for the Brahmayanam is what will be covered here. So this elaborate discussion so far, we have to understand is an upasana portion. We have to contemplate using Prashnopanishad to reach that goal of Brahma Jiva Aikyam, which is postulated in the Mundakopanishad. Next slide, please. We have come to know, based upon the concept of Prajapati being none other than Brahman, that prana that is being discussed is actually a mythical entity, meaning it is just a projection. It's not real. It is actually stemming from Atman or Brahman, both at the individual and cosmic level. Prana borrows its existence and consciousness from Atman Brahman, both at the individual and cosmic level, and its limitedness from the BMI. Its so-called entry into the individual is caused by the individual's desires and thoughts only. The notion that the individual identity that we possess in the body today is the agent for all actions, meaning karta bhava, and the individual's notion that he would like to experience this jagat, which is called bhokta bhava, both of them are binding this projection strongly. What is this projection? It is the projection of prana on Atman. It binds itself to as though take residence in the body as the I notion. So much so that whatever we are thinking today, we are only thinking through the I notion. We are not thinking as Atman or Brahman. We are always thinking only through the I notion. Why? Because the power to think and the power to understand our thought resides with the power of prana. So who is going to liberate us from this bondage? It is this prana alone that is going to liberate us. How do we liberate ourselves? Recognizing what this prana essentially is. That is the upasana part that is being taken up. So behind all this discussion till now that we had, you have to focus on that particular aspect of prana, which is to be recognized not as a limited entity, but connected to the entire universe. But the prana that we experience has already divided itself into 5 parts. So which part is connected to the universe will be the question that will come. What are the 5 parts? The 5 physiological functions of the BMI, which prana is responsible primarily as prana itself, meaning Mukhya prana, that prana that seems to have entered this body, controls all subtle input and all outputs that are from this body. Karmendriya, Jnanendriya. That is the main function for which it entered. That is why we have Karta Bhokta feeling in us. And in addition, in order to keep this body going correctly, it controls the gross excretion and discharges from the body. So at the subtle level, it maintains the input and output, and at the gross level, it maintains the body's changes. As Samana Prana, it takes the food that this gross body consumes, converts it into gross and subtle, and distributes it to the various parts of the body. And because of this distribution alone, this subtle experience and gross expressions of the jiva are possible, which was indicated in the Brahmana as 7 fires. We saw that also, right? And the purpose of that is to absorb sensory perception from outside the world, outside of us from the world, and also perform actions in the world. So karma and jnana both are happening through this prana principle, integrating the subtle body with the gross body. Without prana, that experience is not possible. And jnana is the one which actually spreads through the nerves, providing sentiency of to this entire body. Any part of our body we feel sentient. It is not that sentiency is there only in my heart, the rest of it is inert. No. In the computer parlance, they will say the CPU is the heart of the computer. And the computer does not know anything other than itself there. Whereas when it comes to the body, we feel that I am there in this part of the body, in my leg, in my tip of my fingers also. Take a pinprick and prick there, you will know it is it. I know, I feel the pain there. So that I notion has spread throughout as sentiency in this entire body is because of jnana. And finally, udana is that which is actually holding the subtle body with the gross body. See, if I have gas and if I have a solid material and mix them together and I leave them, the gas will separate out from the solid because they don't mix actually, right? Same way, that which is subtle, which is our intellect, mind, thinking ability, and all that functions that we are doing, and this gross physical body, which is made of food, they are staying together. And who is keeping them together? This Udana Vayu. So much so that when this Udana Vayu, which is maintaining the connection between the subtle and the gross in us, when it tries to leave, literally the subtle body is carried away with it and the gross body is left behind, and that is what is death. And what does it do with the subtle body? It carries your subtle body in a peculiar form. We'll discuss that a little later, and then deposits it into the next body when it is ready. And then the whole tamasha starts again. Endless births and deaths and birth and death. And we never even recognize these functions. Huh? If somebody were to ask you before this Vedanta course as to what is causing death, you'll say, I don't know, it's God. No, you are causing your death because your identity is now parked in that. What? That I am this body. The one who says I am this body dies. The one who says I am not this body lives. Simple logic, right? So much of profound nature of this statement is so wonderful to even think of. Then in a particular Upanishad, I remember Amritasya Putraha, meaning what? I am the immortal children. We are all immortal children of that Supreme Being. What does it mean? We have no death. Death is for the body. The body, when it detaches from the subtle body, becomes lifeless. Why? Pranas have gone. Which prana? Udhana prana is taking everything and taking it away. Next slide, please. आदित्यो हवै बाह्यप्राण उदयत्येष हैनं चाक्षुषं प्राणमनुग्रहाणः पृथिव्यां या देवता सैषा पुंसस्य पानम् अवष्टभ्यन्तरा यदाकाशः स समानो वायुर्व्यानः. Adityo, the sun, ha, indeed, why verily, bahyah, external, cosmic, prana, prana. Udayatesha, this is observed as rising, hainam, verily it is, chakshusham, in the eyes, pranam anugrahana, blessed by the pranas, Prithivyam of the earth, Ya, one who is Devata, presiding deity, Sa, she, Aisha, this, Purushasya, of the person, Apanavayu, Apanam, Avashtabhyantaraha, established inside, Yadakashaha, just as space, Sa, that, Samanaha, Vayu, Vayu, cosmic air, Vyanaha, Vyanapa. So three pranas are, sorry, four pranas are present. Aditya, Prana, Apana, yeah, Samana and Vayana. So four pranas are discussed in one Brahmana. The sun is verily the cosmic prana because only when he rises, having graced the prana in the eye, everything happens. The goddess of earth attracts or controls the apana in the individual towards herself, causing excretion and procreation. The interspace between the earth and the sun is the cosmic samana. The wind is the manifestation of cosmic vyata. This is the pictorial representation of the connection between individual pranas and the cosmic element. Let's see a little bit more in detail to understand this Brahmana. Next slide, please. आदित्यो हवै बाह्य प्राण उदयतेश हैनं चाक्षुषं प्रमाण अनुग्रहाणः. Aditya is that cosmic prana. This cosmic prana, as the sun, rises gracing the prana in the eye. So when we say cosmic prana, where should our attention go? We must go back to chapter 1 and recognize that from Prajapati, the two principles that came out was prana and rayi. And from that prana, in association with rayi, Aditya was created, the sun was created, sun and moon principle. That Aditya is being referenced here, not the absolute prana yet. Because when you make a connection, like let us take, if you are married and you have a brother-in-law, you are connected to the brother-in-law through your spouse, correct? You are not directly connected to them. So here we have already come to individuality existence, where means I now exist only in this body. From this body, I cannot directly connect myself to that Prajapati or to that prana because those concepts do not exist in my realm. The closest I can go to is identify myself with something that is tangibly visible to me. Because from this body, if I want to recognize something which is cosmic in nature, I can use only the perceivable things as reference. But the Upanishad is brilliant. Even though it is telling it is Aditya, in our intellect, we have already parked this notion that Aditya is none other than Prana. And Prana is none other than Prajapati. And Prajapati is none other than Brahma. So even when you are connecting with that Aditya, subconsciously you are aware that you are now talking about that Brahman alone. This cosmic prana, as the sun deity, when it rises, it has reference to the rays of the sun that makes even the eye see. Because the eye is presided over by sun as the deity that we know from the same Tattva and other texts that we have seen. And even if you were to look at it like a physiological system, you will see that unless there is bright sunlight outside, your eyes cannot see. Nobody has got power of seeing in total pitch darkness because the eye's seeing power depends upon availability of the light outside in some form, whether directly from the sunlight or borrowed through battery light or solar light. You can call, so many lights are there now outside to make the world visible. But ultimately, everything is borrowed from that sun principle which Upanishad is talking. So the external world is energized by the Aditya principle of energy, which then becomes available for the Jnanendriyas to act individually to perceive it. So what is implied in this one single statement is the entire perception that you think is real is a play between the cosmic Aditya outside with the I Jnanendriya inside. That's all. When you put a magnet and a few iron filings together, they will seem to dance with you. If you move the magnet under a paper and put some filing, when we were very small kids, we didn't have all these fantastic toys that are there today. So these were the things we would enjoy ourselves with. Put some iron filings and rust actually, and then put a magnet and it looked like people are all moving down this way, that way. And we used to play, very kids, we do it. I do not know how many of you enjoyed it. But the key point is that the movement of all those people is based upon the magnet underneath it, right? Same way, this cosmic prana is the one which is energizing your eye to actually see and experience. So it's a play between those two. But you have taken ownership as Karta to say, I am seeing because of delusion. And that delusion is keeping you bound inside the body as though that seeing is happening inside the body, but actually seeing is just a play of external prana with the internal prana. That's all. Two notions are interacting with each other based upon some logic. That's all. And then you see how amount of trouble it causes us. No? I like this, I don't like this, this person is mean, this person is good, this person is nice, this person is not nice. He is a terrorist, he is a Mahatma. See how many other notions are built upon this notion that I am Karta and I am Bhokta. Because I am Bhokta, my Bhoktatva is the most important thing in life. Not knowing that everybody's Bhoktatva is controlled only by the prana principle operating outside and inside. That prana is flowing through you, but we think we are flowing through prana. No. Even for a moment, if you can conceptualize that vision, you are liberated. Very difficult, okay? Because when you start listening to all this, you have to come back to that prana only to listen. So we'll always come back. So this change that we are talking about is not a physical change where we stop thinking and we become one with that supreme Brahman, not that. It is an intellectual understanding which will work at the very subtle level of your own system. It's not going to be a gross visible change in you. It's so subtle that you won't even feel it is happening, even though it is happening. Many Mahatmas, when you ask them, are you Brahman? They will say, what? No, Mahatma. They know, but still they will pretend as if they do not know because they cannot express it externally. Anybody who says I am Brahman, he is not Brahman. Please understand that. Because you cannot express Brahman that way. It is to be felt individually and recognized and realized. After that, rest of the tamasha is only for you to watch. That's all. In fact, life becomes so you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You are totally free. Right now, I'm constrained how to preserve this body, how to preserve my opinion, how to preserve my life, etc., etc. This knowledge liberates you that you don't have to worry. Something else which is already set in motion is keeping your BMI going. Why are you worried about it? You are here to only witness that and experience both your BMI and the world. But what we do is we identify with the BMI. I think I'm experiencing the world outside. No, Baba, you're experiencing your own BMI also. Those wicked thoughts and the wonderful thoughts that you're having, you're witnessing it. Please understand, you're not affected by it. Your BMI is affected by it. In the movie, the character who's lived next door to you, who's playing the role of villain, is going to get beaten up. Will you start worrying about it? You're only watching it for fun. You're actually paying money to see that, right? Is there any movie you want to see without any villain? No, we all want villains in that movie. But with the moment I identify with this BMI, I don't want any more villains in my life. And who is a villain? Anybody who does not think like me is a villain for me. That's all. Simple explanation. That's how we lead our life. The external world, Jagat, is predominantly tamasa, right? Please remember the two principles when they were defined. One became matter, which used to be consumed, and the prana, the consumer, correct? So the same principle of consumed and consumer is now being played at the level of the individual through the prana inside you. That infinite prana has become the limited prana, which is playing the role of a limited consumer. And around you is the Jagat, which is predominantly tamas or rai, is actually energized in this play by the sun principle. The sun shines on the moon and gives it some borrowed light. Same way, all the objects, people, and experiences around you are energized by the sun principle to reveal the matter content in them to you. And then the individual and the Jagat, through the Indriyas, they are getting connected. It's just a play. In that play, the principle of prana in you is energizing your jnanendriyas and karmendriyas to respond to whatever it has thrown up in the world for you. But they are all following a pattern driven by the deities which are controlling them. And the deities in turn are controlled by whatever decisions, desires, and expressions you do. So, in effect, what you're doing is actually playing with this Jagat the way you want to do it. That's all you're doing. That's the reality. So, Adityo Havai Bahya Prana Udayatyesha Hainam Chaktushu. Chaktushu here represents not just the eyes, all the Indriyas. Karmendriya, Jnanendriya, everything is represented. And Aditya is the one which is throwing light on what is outside for you to perceive through what is inside you. That's all. It facilitates the process of experience and action both. If there's nothing outside, you will never act. If there's nothing outside, you will experience nothing. Correct? So Aditya is the one which connects these two things externally, and internally he has become the Jnanendriya and Karmendriya for you to perform. That's correct. And we have an experiential effect in us. I think at this point, all of you will stop, switch off your videos because kya ho raha hai? Tamasha hai. All fun. Somebody is talking on the other end of the video and I am listening. All this is only prana, right? Luckily, in and through all of this, knowledge is also coming to us. See, your being a karta or bhokta is not an issue. But what kind of a karta or bhokta you are will decide how you steer yourself. That is important. So there is a silver lining even in this tamasha. You have a choice to choose what is good or what is pleasant. The moment you choose good, you will be steered away from this thing and you will become a true bystander witness consciousness, or you will become bound and then suffer. Like when some movies, when you see, we start crying when some sad scene comes in. That means you are bound into the movie. But if you go there, pay money, enjoy the act, and say wonderful acting, come out, you are not affected. So in this Jagat, we have to live through our BMI and the world outside and enjoy it. If you have been given a particular role, play the role to the effect. Some of us have a lot of suffering in our life. Some of us have a lot of fun in our life. Because you are suited for that role, you are given that role. Please understand that. And what is the suitability? Your own BMI. A particular structure of BMI makes you enjoy. I don't want to use the word enjoy there because that will be very rude. But actually, it is only a projected feature of that BMI which can only respond to a particular feature outside. That's all life is. So, suffering in life, people who come into your life, everything is driven by this logic. The Samana Vayu, which was discussed as that which digests and distributes the food that is consumed and therefore sustains the individual to experience a Jagat, is connected with the Akasha Tattva. The Akasha Tattva is the one which accommodates the entire Jagat and supports. Like Samanavayu does it at the individual level, Akasha does it at the cosmic level. Akasha is the one which is sustaining the entire Jagat. If space is not there, no Jagat will be there. If there is no space for Jagat, how will Jagat be there, right? Simple logic. So the entire world that we are experiencing is accommodated, supported, and pervasively maintained by the Samana Vayu at the cosmic level, which is known as Akash. And the Shruti from Chandogya Upanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad supports this logic. Tad ekshata bahusyam prajayeti. I wish to become many. In Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, second section, mantra 3. Let me beget many progenies. And then what did it do? Tasmat tasmat akasha sambhuta. It became akasha. That is the first thing that it became. Akashad vayu, vayur agni, agnir apah, adbhya prithvi. Adbha means actually water. That agni becomes apa. Apa and abdha is all synonymous for water only. Prithvi came from water. Prithivya aushadaya. Aushadaya annam. Annat purushah. Savaesha purusho annamaya annasamaya. This entire purusha that we are seeing today is only filled with annam. That's all we are. Certainly, Akasha came from Paramatma, air from the Akasha, fire from air, water from the fire, and the earth from water. All vegetation came from this earth, and grain from the vegetation. The man is a result of this annam, food. Thus, man is essentially formed from food. That is what Upanishad says. And then Vayur Vyanaha, the Vyana which was discussed earlier, got its name because of its pervasiveness. It spreads everywhere. That is why we call it Vyana. Vyana Vayu is the one which is taking sentiency to every part of the body, right? Same way, air is the one which is carrying the life principle to various creatures in this cosmic. So everything that is sentient in the world outside is because of Vayu Tattva, which is all pervasive like Vyana inside. So it also, and another thing interesting about this Vayu Tattva, it is the one which carries Agni, water, and earth to various corners. It is Vayu Tattva that flows. Thus, at the cosmic level, it pervades all creation. It is also called Anilaha in Sanskrit, meaning that which never stays in one place. It is always moving, continuous movement. Next slide, please. Brahmana 3.9 continues with the last part of the prana. Tejo ha vava udhanas tasmat उपशांत तेजाः पुनर्भवाम इंद्रियै मनसि संपद्यमानैः. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, please add this extra term which is called pratipadyate. Why? We'll explain that later. Tejah, fire, heat, that is. Ha, indeed. Va, iva, verily. Udana, udana vayu. Tasmat, therefore. Upashanta, extinguished, laid to rest. Tejaha, fire. Punarbhavama, again taking embodiment. Indriyahi, with senses. Manasi, and the mind. Sambhadyamanaihi, whatever is earned by its karma. Pratipadyate, reach and arrive at. Fire, Tejas, verily is the ascending breath, Udana. Therefore, he whose fire of life has been extinguished takes rebirth with the senses absorbed in the mind. Another translation of it which I came across, which is also very interesting, so I thought I'll share that. That which is well known as luminosity is Udana. This makes more scientifically, it makes a little bit more clarity. Therefore, one who gets his light extinguished gets rebirth along with the organs that enter into his mind. It's a very precise meaning for it. Good. Next slide, please. Tejo ha vava udana. See, fire or brightness, heat, etc., at the cosmic level is the counterpart of udana at the individual level. None of us actually feel udana vayu. We feel prana. We can feel it. Samana, indirectly, digestion is taking place. We know it. All other things we can sense, but udana vayu we can never sense. It is hidden actually. Same way, just as Udana remains almost invisible in the individual body till death, so too the fire principle remains dormant in creation till it is ignited to burn down gross forms and detach the subtle form from it at the cosmic level also. See, if you've seen stars and galaxies forming and they are destroyed, you will see that the gross form of the star is destroyed when it is actually shrunk. But its subtle nature, which is the nucleus for its creation, that is actually retained as the Vedantic understanding of cosmic disabilities. We don't say nothing is destroyed. Whereas science will tell you that the entire universe got destroyed. It doesn't get destroyed. So when we see black hole and all those things, they are all actually unmanifest star constellations, etc. So the galaxies and stars are created and dissolved because of that principle of fire. When the fire in that is withdrawn, they are all shrunk to nothingness. But what happened? They are shrunk into their subtle form. The expressive form is the gross form, and then it becomes subtle and it goes inside and resides till it next cycle of creation is started. Udana Vayu, we have seen, detaches the subtle body from the individual gross body and transports it to the next destination. In the cosmic plane also the same thing is happening, is what this particular Brahmana is trying to enlighten, and that is how they are synonymous. Tasmat Upashanta Tejaha. When the fire principle is extinguished in the individual, you have to also remember at the cosmic level, the body becomes cold at death, and this universe becomes unmanifest at that time when that particular Udhana Vayu at the cosmic level acts as the fire of creation. When it is withdrawn, it becomes Laya. So the Udhana Vayu is leaving the gross body, taking with it the subtle body of the individual. So at Laya, Pralaya, the gross manifestation is left behind and it just goes back to nothingness. And like it, the moment it becomes lifeless, it is not visible also. And what is taken is the essence of all the experiences of all beings that is carried forward for the next creation, which we saw in the beginning of this Upanishad, where it said Prajapati borrowed from the Vedas, decided what he should do, and based upon the karmas of the previous beings of the previous kalpa, a new kalpa is created. So all that we think today will decide what is going to happen in the next kalpa, collectively. Luckily, I am only contributing to one small, minuscule contribution. So the king once asked his people, are you all obedient to me? And they all said, yes, sir. So he said, okay, there is a famine in one part of the country. So all of you come and put one small glass of milk in a jar. So everybody was asked to do it. And then finally, when they opened the jar, they found only water. Why? Because one person thought that if I put one small glass of water, it'll never get detected. When everybody started thinking, we got only water, we never got milk. The same way, when all of us don't think correctly, It's saying that I can get away as long as others are all perfect. I can get away with my mistake. We are actually creating the situation for the next culprit. So right thinking. Is it okay now? So we have to think correctly. All of us have to think correctly, not just I alone. But we have to start from ourselves, that we have to be very vigilant as to what we say, what we do, and what we think. That is important in our life. Become more conscious that you are part of this universe and you are making a contribution. And your job is to make sure that your contribution is the best that can be given to the universe. That's all you should do. Don't just review others and say, everybody is bad, therefore I can be bad, is not an answer. You have to become the light of goodness, even amongst all the negativities around us, because you are the last hope for this entire universe. That should be the attitude with which we should live. Punarbhavam indriya manasi sampadyamanahe pratipadyate. The fire principle in the form of Udana Vayu, 8, that is what is mentioned here, again manifests step by step in a new body. When it starts gaining back the sense organs and mind from the new body. Just as a video game player who actually gets exhausted by the previous session switches off, waits for some time, then he starts this computer again, and now he finds a new session is ready. And now he takes on a new identity because the last identity was not successful. He wants to try a new one. So we try a new one. And then in that new form, he becomes energized as soon as the game starts, right? Same way, when the new body is born, before it is born, we are tired. But the moment we gain that new body and see its power and its abilities, we want to play that game again. And after some time, our food, our surroundings, our parents, our children, our neighbors, everything is forgotten. We are engrossed in that game, correct? Those you are seeing young people, I see it. They are so much wedded into that computer system, they are not even aware of all other necessities in our life. Like that, as a jiva, we have become absorbed into this punarbhavana. Again, we have taken birth and we get enthralled with that birth, thinking it to be as real as it should be. But no, it is not real. And then that identity that you are getting again is derived from that form because of universal fire principle. The universal fire principle has manifested a new form for you. And you get identified as the individual fire to that form, and you claim that I am the one driving this new form. And then you go on playing this new game of Jiva life again and again, making all the same mistakes again and again. Once you get identified with your mind and sense organs, you are trapped. If you can give your mind and sense organs to the cosmic principle, then you become liberated. Now, who is giving up this mind and sense organ? I. Who are you today? Mind and sense organs. And that means you have to surrender yourself. Oh, no, no, but I cannot surrender because the one who is surrendering has to remain to surrender, right? If I have to give something, I must remain outside. So this surrender you're talking about does not, I can surrender anything that I hold, but I cannot surrender myself, correct? So when the Upanishad says surrender your ego, surrender your mind, we are all listening to it, but we don't know how to do it. So the real surrender is not to say that I will surrender myself, but surrender that which is not you, surrender it to the absolute. So in you, there are two parts. One, the Karta Bhokta part, another, your existence. Surrender the Karta Bhokta to the universe and retain your existence as a witness consciousness is what this Upanishad is. Next slide, please. When a person dies, his physical body disintegrates because nothing is there to hold it in place. But the power or strength of his sense organs, or pranic vitality, as Gurudev says, withdraws from these centers and becomes united with the subtle body, the mind. The subtle body is conveyed to its next field of activity for rebirth in another body by the energy which we called as Udana. Thus, it is not our deeds, but also our thoughts and words in this life that influences our next life. We have seen this in Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, 8th verse is talking exactly about this. So long as Udana exists in the body, a person is alive and his body remains warm. When the Udana leaves, the warmth is gone. The person is dead and the body is cold. Thus, the body is a thing in which the flames are extinguished, as this mantra says, Brahmana says. Shankara Bhashya throws a little bit more light on this by stating that the all-pervading cosmic fire element alone blesses the Udana function in the individual. When this functioning power leaves through the Sushumna Nadi, as we have seen, it is as though Upashanta Tejaha, the heat is put off at the individual level. That's what he says. As long as the cosmic prana is blessing you, the individual prana, you are alive. When it withdraws from your physical body and puts it in another body, you become cold and you'll die. Then we say his life is exhausted, is about to die, etc. The sense and motor organs of the body are actually being withdrawn one by one, folded into your mind, and mind with vasanas and ignorance is carried out by Dvana to the next embodiment. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad elaborately discusses this in the fourth Brahmana, fourth section. Another Upanishad also deals with it. Kaustaki Upanishad. Very elaborate discussion in that. God willing, we may take it up sometime, we don't know. Next slide, please. What did we gather from these two, 3.8 and 3. What is the essential message? This is the key information that we have to keep in mind. The prana, the life breath in living being, is a manifestation of the cosmic life principle, is the message. The cosmic energy manifests itself as sun, earth plus water, space, air, and fire. Why did I put here earth plus water? Because there are two functions of apana vayu. One is called excretion, another is called procreation. The procreation is controlled by water, excretion is controlled by earth. Therefore, earth plus water is one principle, plus space, air, fire, and heat, making up the 5 elements, and the sun principle representing Aditya is covered by this Brahmana. And along with the deities controlling these elements, prana, apana, samana, vana, udana, or the internal manifestation of the principle of prana in their individual body. And these individuals function as independently and control the body functions. Each of the 5 forms of life breath in human body is influenced by its cosmic counterpart. Sun corresponds to prana, which is active in the eyes. Earth plus water corresponds to apana, which regulates excitatory and regenerative system. Space corresponds to samana, which regulates the digestive system. Air corresponds to vyana, which energizes the entire body. Fire teja corresponds to udana, which sustains life. Thus, there is a direct relationship between the universe and the individual, or macrocosm and the macrocosm, samashti or vyashti, and prana in this way supports both the external elements with their respective deities and the internal organs with the life forces that control. And there is, in the outer world, many points from which we can actually draw the parallels. Sage Pipalada in this particular chapter is illustrating those points where we can visualize the same pranic forces acting inside us as also functioning outside us. See, when you want to talk about Jiva Brahma Aikyam, you'll have to build such notions to strengthen that thought. Otherwise, very difficult to come out of this individuality which is holding us. So something has to be given away. The giving away of what is not you is done through this exercise of connecting it to a higher principle. In a way, it is bhakti. In a way, it is the truth. Next slide, please. Let's look at a famous diagram to get a conceptual understanding. It will become clear. Again, Brahman, non-dual, one single entity, divided itself into its power Maya, and then it became called as Ishvara. And this Ishvara is the name for Brahman associated with the sattvic aspect of Maya, which set the creation in motion. So, wielding Maya through its sattvic nature, Ishvara created this entire prapancha for our experience. Prana is the name for Ishvara associated with the Rajasic Maya at the cosmic level. That's how we have understood Prana. And associates and energizes the total cosmic body. The total cosmic body, when it energizes, manifests itself as Pancha Mahabhutas. We saw that as Tasmat, Etasmat, Akasha, Sambhuta, etc. So these Pancha Mahabhutas rearranged in this order, and the prana now functions in the Upanishad as Aditya principle, the sun principle, which energizes this entire play of this Maya at the cosmic level. And prana is the Prajapati conditioned by Rajasic aspect of Maya at the individual level. And therefore, prana gets connected to Aditya, apana gets connected to earth and water principle, samana to space principle, vyana to air principle, and udana to fire principle. And all of them, at the universal level, total cosmic body is controlled and the individual gross body is controlled. And this is how the similarities. In this one slide, the entire